Hey Seekers, I want to talk to you about the evolution of watching readers online, tarot readers in specific, but any form of reader and divination. And I don't know if you noticed, you must have noticed that you started off with a type of readers and then moved on to different readers and then moved on to different readers. And you might be anywhere on this line of progression. But nonetheless, there is a progression in your journey of viewing online tarot. So if that's something you find interesting, stay tuned. And take a deep sniff of this rose. Now we're set in the right mood. Okay, if you're new, by the way, my name is Morgane and welcome to the Existential Shift. So you'll notice that or maybe you haven't noticed and that's why you're here for me to tell you. Anyway, the first level or aspect in the process of watching readings is the type of readers and readings that have to do with the negative emotions in the spectrum of the human condition and the human emotion. Readings about how this and that have wronged you, how this and that will get their punishment, how everyone will find out how you were always in the right, how they've stolen from you, hurt you, backstabbed you, betrayed you, are jealous of you, it's all about how you are the victim. You are the center of the reading in ways of you are the good victim, and everyone else in this story and in this narrative are the bad people who have caused you nothing but harm. Now, none of everything I'm about to say, by the way, is to not validate or discredit the messages or what they're doing or what it is that you need to hear when you hear these messages. Okay. But often when you find yourself watching constantly these types of reading, when it's very worldly, three-dimensional relationships, gossipy like readings, and it's all about what they have done and what will happen to them in turn. It's when we are really, really, really engulfed in the negative emotional state. When I say negative, I don't mean bad, I don't mean evil, I mean painful. Okay? There's a lot of psychological pain that when you watch constantly these readings that you're carrying often is because you and your pain growing up or in your life circumstances, you were not validated when someone hurt you, when someone did something to you. You weren't given the credit of being the victim. You were gaslit, you were blamed even, or at the very least, not supported and not seen. And so when you watch these readings again and again and again, what happens is you receive a lot of validation, a lot of affirmation to your pain, to your trauma, to what you went through, to what was done to you, to your victimhood, to your losses. And, how do you heal thirst? By drinking water. How do you heal hunger? By eating food. How do you heal lack of love? By receiving love. And how do you heal insecurity based on not ever receiving validation? By constantly receiving validation. So what happens is that you watch these videos again and again and again, and you constantly receive validation. What you feel is valid, you are correct, they did hurt you. Here's how things will turn out right for you. Spirit is with you, God is with you, the universe is with you. Now, whether or not the narrative itself is true or not true, it's completely irrelevant. It might all be true, by the way. It might all not be true. That's not the point. The point is the receive of validation. You are in absolute thirst to it. You need it. Here you are receiving it. So please have no judgment towards yourself if that's the place that you're at. And don't have judgment to people who watch these readings, nor the people who make these readings, because they themselves are finding healing and validation for themselves and for their own pain and psychological trauma through helping others through it. The most important thing to understand is there are is there's a lot of pain and trauma that is not resolved, isn't relieved, that you're still carrying. And a big aspect of your healing process is that validation and feeling seen, feeling understood, feeling supported, feeling acknowledged, both by someone who reads you, the tarot, the tool, the language in which spirit speaks, and spirit itself, however you want to refer to it, universe, God, etc. Okay. So if you are constantly in that place and you feel like you need it and you are drawn to it, give yourself that. It's okay. But also, accelerate the process of healing by realizing that that's what you're drawn to. The reason why you're drawn to it is the validation. Give yourself that validation. Give yourself that self-love. Love yourself. Accept the pain that you're feeling. Tell yourself that it's valid to feel the way you feel without judgment. Yes, there's two sides to every story, blah, 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 but that's not what the emotional child and the injured, traumatized child in you needs to hear. That's not going to help. When a child gets hurt and is crying, it's not going to help them if you tell them that in a year from now, they're not going to remember it, because they're not in a year from now, they're now, and they are in pain and they need a hug. It's as simple as that. So that's how you approach yourself when you're in that space. And when you're in a space of pain, regardless, and it doesn't contradict dealing or having accountability. It's just the emotional validation that is crucial for healing. Okay. So that's the first level of watching tarot readings and watching online readings. Once that is processed and is healed, and it takes as long as it takes, as long as you need, or as long as you keep yourself stuck in it. That depends on your situation. The next process of watching and online readers and the types of readers and videos that you watch are the readings in which it is all about your accountability, how you can do better, how you are responsible, on where you were, you were to not blame, but what was your side of the story? And often it's not even focused necessarily on readings as much as it could be, let's say, new age spiritual guidance that only focuses on you. Nothing else exists. It's all in your head. You are the master of your domain. You are the master of the universe. What you wish you create. It's all about your inner viewpoint and perspective. And if you just forgive everyone for everything and only see your side of the story, not your side of the story from a place of being subjective, but if you focus on what you brought to the table and resolve that and do the accountable work of awareness and acknowledgement of your share, then everything will be amazing. So you're basically moving from one extreme to the other, from receiving validation as to everyone else were bad and hurting, which is a valid aspect of reality because that existed too. Then you're going to the other extreme, to the other side, to the flip side of the coin, where is your accountability? What parts did you have in it? What did you bring to the table? What was your experience? What was your subjective experience that had you stay stuck in the pain? And now what you can do to also see what the others went through, what their perspective was, what they went through, why they did what they did from a higher perspective, right? Not from a low, emotional, painful perspective, but from a higher, forgiving, unconditionally loving, accountable perspective. So everyone who ever hurt you are not the villain now. They're actually also a victim in their own story. And they saw things from their point of view. And in their story, you were the villain and they were the hero. So, okay, witness yourself, see and look into yourself. And instead of being angry like we were in the other types of readings, now we are forgiving and loving and higher and divine. Okay, now please understand that these are actually two of the same thing, but from the flip coin. Okay, because both have existed throughout the events in your life. The pain that you have endured existed, and how it affected you emotionally is valid. And their pain and their victimhood and what they went through that triggered them and led them to doing the things they did, and how you've responded to it versus maybe in some of the situation how you could have responded differently, is also valid. But now you needed to look at, after after you calmed your inner wounded child with validation and received that aspect, that portion of self-love, now there's a need to elevate your mind and making you feel spiritual, on the journey of becoming a better person, accountable, meaning not waiting for someone else to see you, to validate you, to give you. Rather, give yourself, validate yourself, pursue your progression in life, regardless of what was done to you or what who says or decides whatever. And it gives you your power back. Okay? So notice that you're being given things that you were lacking. You were lacking validation, you got it here. But you also lost your power in this entire process. And now you are given your power. You're given the power to decide how you feel, the power to forgive, right? And be mightier, the power to pave your own path without waiting for anyone else to do anything or being dependent on anyone else, without being a prisoner to your pain. But the only way for you to have gone to this phase of types of readings and spiritual guidance is if you'd first received the validation to your pain, because the only way out is in. You can't be above pain and forgiving and higher and mightier if you haven't resolved and healed the pain. That's why first this happens, then this happens. And that takes as long as it takes, it remains as long as it remains. And then comes a special place on the journey of watching readings, learning spirituality and manifestation and power and all that, understanding the integration of the polarities and walking the integrated path and learning spirituality as the spirit of reality, where you have the power of co-creator, but you are also part of an ecosystem that is affecting others and is affected by others, right? It's a mutual dance that we can't ever truly escape as long as we're in this dimension. So this life actually includes both separately, but also integrated. And in a true consciousness, conscious, understand, and evolved, okay, enlightened awareness is realizing that you are dual, going through and learning about both aspects of your duality. Okay, in this case, we can look at it as the victim versus the hero. Okay, but it's just an example. The bad guy versus the good guy. Okay, the whatever. Okay, understanding the two aspects of duality, going through the one of them inside of you, going through the other of them inside of you, then realizing that they're both inside of you, and going through the process of trying to find the equilibrium of how you actively live from and by both of them in as balanced as possible, viewing the world both from your inner subjective perception, but also from your quote unquote objective exterior perception that includes points of views of others. The reason I'm saying quote unquote on objective is because everything is subjective, and the number of truths is the number of sets of eyes, and time is not really chronological. Everything happens in the now, including the past and the future. I am recording this July 30th, 8 p.m. and 8 minutes, but you are watching this sometime afterwards. And we are coexisting in my moment and in your moment that are relatively past versus future. However, we both are meeting each other here in the present. Rewind a little bit and hear it again until it sinks. Okay? So, when we realize that everything exists in its differences and in its fragmentation, but also everything exists at once as one, That's the existence of God. So that is the spiritual process and evolution of the human psyche and of the spiritual entity. Okay. And the way it's playing, and this video is about how it's playing out and existing within the aspect of you watching readers online, types of videos, types of spiritual work that you're learning. Okay, because everything I mention here is spiritual. Being angry and in pain and upset over what was done to you and validating how you feel and being there for your inner child and telling yourself that you're going to win against all odds because you can, and you know what, they actually weren't okay for doing this, and that's you allowing yourself to be angry with your parents and that they're supposed to be up on a pedestal to the psyche. They're like to the psyche, our parents are the equivalent to God. Often our faith in God is a mirror to our faith in our parents, and it also applies to our faith in governments and leadership. Notice that you have a tendency to look at your gods and at your leaders the way you look at your parents. If you don't trust your parents, you are not likely to be trusting of your government or of a god. And vice versa. If you grew up in a very loving, nourishing environment, you have the natural trust in your leaders and also the natural trust in the divine. And I know it's an oversimplification and there are more complexities to that, but that's at large, okay? So that's valid, but then also understanding how powerful you are and how much of a co-creator you are is also an important part of the process. And then understanding that both matter in an integrated, balanced way, but also none really matters because, well, we're all molecules and just light bouncing back at us. Like, you're not watching me right now, you're watching how light bounces off of me and then in turn how you interpret me. And that's and when you reach that point, that's when you lose your mind. Just kidding, because you see the world as everything and nothing constantly. And okay, so if you realize that time doesn't really exist and it's an illusion that was uh, created by our brain in order for our human mind to be able to cope in this 3D reality, then okay, how do you schedule anything? How do you work according to schedule? How do you show up on time to anything if nothing matters? Welcome to my life. I actually make it work, but that requires extra practice. This is another level of practicing and training one's existence within the 3D realm. Okay, once you know what goes on, once you know this is all just molecules, and you don't just know it theoretically, like it sinks. How do you, with that, also still play the game of life? Because here you are. Here you are. And if you don't play, you lose. So think about it when you play chess or when you play soccer or when you play anything. You know it's a game. You know at the end if you win or if you lose, and if you do well or not do well, doesn't really matter. It's just a game, and you'll be forgiven and loved, and you'll all go out to for a drink together, hopefully if you're a good sport. But still, when you're playing the game, you're in it and it matters to you and you try your best. And if you didn't succeed your best, then you learn for the next time. So that's kind of the muscle you got to train. I'm sorry for the lack of focus. Oh, what happened? Light bounces off differently. We're having this example. Let's keep it this way. Okay. Anyway, so please have no judgment for yourself or wherever you are in the journey. Don't have judgment towards others. It's all a cycle of a process anyway. Your beginning is someone else's ending, and your ending is someone else's beginning. So it's a beginning and an end and a middle and everything in between. It's all just the same. So just do your best to, stroll on this cyclical journey and be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Watch the readings or the spiritual guidance that you're feeling guided towards. If you're a spiritual teacher, if you're a reader and you do some type of readings, it's okay to let it play out as long as you feel called to do this type of readings. As soon as your spirit grows out of it and is ready to do something next, you will feel it ready. Your readings will naturally change. So don't try to force it. Don't move out, don't finish this video with sense of ego being like, okay, I'm in this type of readings, I want to get here, or I want to get to the integration. You got to let the process happen naturally. Wherever you are right now, it is the best you can be for the people who need you and where you're at on your journey, so you can guide them through where they're at on their journey. It's as simple as that. Stay magic, stay true. I love you. And check out the description box for all the good stuff of the existential shift. And of course, be sure to subscribe and press the like button. See you soon, magic.